Greetings from Lakewood, Ohio. Today is Monday, April 22nd, 2024. It is about 4:49 p.m. Eastern Time. You can see the Cove Community Center there. It used to be Cove Church. Then once the church closed, they eventually turned it into a community center. Right now we are at the intersection of Clifton and Cove in Lakewood, Ohio. Clifton, a very wide street. The curb lanes are dedicated to the 55 bus. The rest of the lanes can be used by cars. Bicycles can also use the bus lane. But today's video is just going to be a pleasant spring day walk down a couple of Lakewood city streets as we walk down Cove right now. The temperature right now is 58 degrees Fahrenheit. It's actually supposed to get 1 degree warmer before starting to recede for the evening. You can see you've got some of the nice flowers. Trees are starting to bloom. They're not in all full bloom yet. We got a mixture of some trees on different patterns. Like you see that green tree over there is getting pretty full, but a lot of these ones on the right are still a bit thin. This is Arliss on our right, but it's a no outlet street. I've walked this route frequently, or I get off the bus there and walk toward Detroit often, so that's why Arliss, it's probably not a very well-known street, but I always make note of it. You can see the deep pink colors in this tree. Right before the railroad tracks up here, though, we are going to make a right-hand turn, right where that person turned right up there, to walk into Cove Park. We'll walk through Cove Park, then go up the next street to Detroit, and then from Detroit, we're going to work our way toward Franklin. I'm not sure if I'll showcase Alameda, Cohasset, or Grace, but one of those streets should be pretty nice to showcase. Here's Cove Park that I mentioned earlier. Gotta remember to take a couple pictures as I'm going along here. It's a small park that has a grass field up ahead that is utilized for either baseball or soccer. You can see some people doing some soccer work right now. There's a sidewalk that goes around the perimeter so you could get some exercise. Runs alongside the train tracks. That's one of the things, because I often cut through Cove Park, but then you also hope, like, well, geez, I hope while I'm cutting through Cove Park that I didn't allow time for a train to go by, and then I have to wait for a train once I get to the next street. Yeah, here's the backstop for the baseball. And then over there's a gazebo. I'm not sure if this, every time I've come by this restroom, the doors seem to be padlocked, so I don't think this is ever really open. Then over here on the left, you have what I believe to be a community garden. And then the playground up here. See if this sign talks about the community garden. No, that just lighted smoking materials. I'll have to be careful when you're walking. You can see his dog crap there that someone has already stepped in. Now the fly's buzzing around. So you look both ways, no trains coming. The road that we're on now is called Thoreau. I'm going to cross over to the west side of the street. See the nice flowers on the ground there. Beautiful sunny skies all day today. Unless I missed them. Unfortunately, I didn't catch any clips of the different colored squirrels. This one's just a regular, what I think of as a traditional looking squirrel. But typically when I start off by, oh, let's see, did someone lose their 5 trip? It actually looks like it's only been used once. It may have blown away from someone. I'll stick it up by the bus shelter in case someone needs to use it. I forgot what I was saying before that though. Nice pink tree on the left. The streets that have like the really big houses that I typically think of are the ones on Grace. Cohasset may have them too. I'm trying to jog my memory. I don't think I'm going to walk each of them because I'd have to walk all the way to Franklin and then walk all the way back to Detroit, so like backtracking. Alameda is an interesting street too because it has the median in the center of it. So now we are at Detroit. Down that way would be the police station. You got Conrad's also. And then over here is Cohasset. So back where Conrad's was, that's where Alameda would be. But Cohasset has some nice houses, so that's one option I could walk down. Or the next street between Drug Mart and what used to be Family Dollar. I think I'm trying to think did they move a Dollar General in there? I believe they did. So this is Drug Mart. That's used to be Family Dollar, and then after the Family Dollar closed last year, they quickly converted it to a Dollar General. I think I did do a video last year that started up near that area by Dollar General, and I walked northbound toward the Gold Coast, and I did a featured video on the Gold Coast. And during that video I talked about how I had been to the Family Dollar, it was closing, and taking advantage of these 70% off sales or even 90% off. Got some merchandise, although that when I was there for the 90% off day, it was kind of ridiculous in hindsight. I think I waited like an hour and a half in line for like the 5 or 6 items that I was buying. It still made for a memorable experience. But yeah, I'll try to think. Here's Grace here, so I'm gonna stop the video and figure out which one I want to go down. So the video may cut to me across the street. So I actually popped over to Church of Ascension real quick to look at their courtyard, because I know in the past during the springtime they have a really pretty courtyard. This is just, there's that Dollar General building I was talking about earlier, so Ascension is across the street. We can see over here the pretty pink, and just like the whole area is very pleasant looking. The bench, the tree. I like all the little benches. Like, you can almost just come and sit here at one of these benches and enjoy it. You got the flowers there. Statue. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, when traffic clears, I'm going to run across the street toward Grace and do a walk showing the houses down Grace. Alright, here we go. Grace and Detroit. So we're walking southbound toward Franklin or Madison. So Franklin is first, then Madison. But I think I'm just going to do this walk on the stretch from Detroit to Franklin. Then I'll make a left turn up at Franklin and briefly give a peek from Franklin toward Cohasset and Alameda, and then turn off and end the video probably there. You can see an example of what I'm talking about, the big houses. You know what, and now that I'm seeing it, briefly go across the street, because I think some of the bigger houses, at least to start with, are on this side. Hopefully the sun's not in our way. We may have to stand at certain angles. A lot of times when I walk through Lakewood, whether it's me, my mom, or the whole family, we just historically over the years have admired the big giant houses that are on this street. Gives you almost a feel like you're looking at a castle with that cone. I don't want to call it a cone, but like triangular shaped or spiral shaped top portion of the house. And even across the street like that, you've got the same type of thing. And again, one of the reasons the street is so unique to me is because a lot of the houses in Lakewood are, nice and pleasant neighborhoods, but they don't have this, what I consider to be like pretty massive looking size. They're just always pretty looking. Like across the street there, I really like that red house. Just stands out to me. And in this one here, look at this red house. Man, it just looks so massive. Another one of those staircase things also. And again, on the opposite side of the street, more of the same. I'm trying to walk at a pace that's allowing you guys to appreciate the unique look and feel of the street. If I'm not mistaken, I think Cohasset, which is one street to my left or one street going eastward from here, also has houses that are similar in nature to this. And those are the two streets that I think of that have, I don't know if there's some type of historical significance to it. That's something I need to research. And I always feel like the houses are more predominantly like this between Detroit and Franklin. There's a few between Franklin and Madison that are also pretty big in size. But it's really this stretch that I'm walking on here, especially toward closer to like the Detroit side from where I'm coming from. You still have more of them toward Franklin, which we're already approaching. A house like this is also big. It doesn't have the same type of like architecture, but just the size of all these. You can see you got a little library here with decorations. So if you want to enrich yourself with a book, you can do so. Free little library. You also have an appreciation for every house is distinctly different in its color. Granted, it's nice when you see a lot of these communities that have new developments and, the properties are, don't get me wrong, they're very nice, but it's also sort of a cookie cutter template, if that makes sense. So I'm sure it's efficient to build and perfectly fine to live in, but if you're trying to admire architecture, it's not really meant for that in those newer developments. Like this house too. I have no knowledge of what the interior of these houses looks like, but that would be kind of a curiosity. I should check. I should check on like Zillow sometime to see if any of the properties have ever been listed and if there's pictures showcasing the inside. And over here on our right, you probably have the shortest, one of the shorter houses, but still has a very wide base to it. So now we've approached Grace and Franklin, and I guess you do still have, I guess I was a little mistaken, you do still have some of those houses that I was talking about, like the castle-like, but I do think once you reach, maybe it's like the halfway point, that there's not as many houses that are built in that nature. It's also nice to see the trees lining the street. So now let's walk down Franklin for a second. As I mentioned earlier, I was just going to walk toward Cohasset, which is this next street, and then the street following that is Alameda. I'm not going to go down either one. I just want to pan my camera, for example, to the left on each of those streets, and then that'll wrap up this pleasant and peaceful walk through parts of the Lakewood neighborhood. Maybe give a vibe to people who either used to live in Lakewood or currently do, or even consider living in Lakewood, like, oh, maybe they'll think the neighborhood looks very nice. So like I said, here's Cohasset. So the houses on this street, they're not as castle-like, but you can see just from looking in the distance that the houses are still pretty big in nature in terms of like the height and width of them. So square footage is pretty big. Again, you have the trees that look like they've been on this street for quite a while. But you can see a sharp contrast in like the height of the trees going that way toward Madison versus the ones on this direction. So there's something about that stretch from Detroit to Franklin on both those streets, Grace and Cohasset, that's always felt pretty special. And even though they don't have any decorations out, I want to give a little shout out to that house, that tiny house that's right there on Franklin. Every holiday, like for Christmas, Halloween, Easter, they always put out these cute little decorations, and it's not overdone, but every time I have gone by it for every holiday, it just brings a nice little smile to my face. Right now you're seeing it plain. It's almost like unusual to see it without decorations. I know many times in past years, if the family was with me, we would like stop there and kind of like take a group selfie in front of that house because it seemed like a good holiday theme, and because the house is so small, you could like fit yourselves and all the decorations in the same picture. And then last, like I was mentioning, here's Alameda. And the unique nature of this street is that it has the median going down the center of the road. You know, and the houses are nice on it as well, but you just got that median in the center. So cars can park on both sides of the street. And then you also have traffic going one way. There's also lamp posts in the middle. And that is consisted on both sides of the street, so going north and south on Alameda. So let me go in the middle right here. Alright, so that's a good place to end things. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time.